The National Water Commission, NWC, will start restrictions on supply to several corporate area communities on Monday. The NWC, in a statement Wednesday evening, says the customers in Kingston and St. Andrew served by its Constant Spring facility are to be affected. The Commission says the facility has seen a recent and significant fall in river inflows, and this demand for water threatens to deplete storage levels at a very fast rate. The water provider says as of Tuesday, April 16, the storage level at the Hermitage Dam, which serves the Constant Spring plant, was at 71.4%, or 281 million gallons. At the same time, the Mona Reservoir stood at 74.2%, or 600 million gallons. The NWC adds that at a smaller capacity and a faster rate of fall, it now has no choice but to commence the implementation of scheduled water supply. The Commission says this will ensure that there is predictable and equitable delivery of water, even as it continues to manage drought-impacted sources. The utility company says areas located below the Ministry of Justice on Constant Spring Road will have water from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., and areas located above the ministry will receive water from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. The NWC notes that water will be trucked to communities that cannot be served by the pipeline network. The Commission says more restrictions may become necessary if the levels at the Mona Reservoir reach 65% of capacity. Now, more than $200 million worth of counterfeit goods were seized by members of the Counterterrorism and Organized Crime Investigation Branch, CTOC, in a raid at an establishment in Oteria, St. Anne on Wednesday. Head of CTOC's Intellectual Property Unit, Deputy Superintendent Victor Barrett, says the items included a range of fake-branded bags and shoes.
At this establishment, we discovered a large quantity of counterfeit Crocs, Nike, Puma, Gucci, Supreme, and other host of brands. The estimated value of these goods this morning is about 250 million Jamaican dollars. And I mean 250 million Jamaican dollars. There is a huge warehouse behind me that is filled with counterfeit goods in all shape and manner.
A Chinese national was arrested in connection with the seizure. DSP Barrett stresses that the purchase and use of fake products is negative in a number of ways, not least of which is giving the country a bad reputation.
Buying counterfeit goods is a bad thing. It is bad in many ways. It doesn't help the country, reputation. So it gives our country, Jamaica, a bad image, where persons might see Jamaica as a dumping ground for counterfeit goods. Secondly, the goods may be of inferior quality and they may be harmful to your health. And lastly but not least, funds may flow into organized crime, and these criminals use the funds to create mayhem in our country.
DSP Victor Barrett, head of CTOC's Intellectual Property Unit. The police is monitoring several high schools across the corporate area following reports of heightened tensions among students. Our news team received reports from a concerned parent who is fearful for her children. Head of the St. Andrew Central Police Division, Senior Superintendent Marlon Nesbeth, says that the police they are in contact with the administration of the schools that are being observed.
We have some issues that started earlier this week, or from last week into this week, with some schools involved. Mona, Calabar, JC, Queens High School. It's a right cross-section, so we have incorporated our CSS headquarters to assist us based on a cross-border situation as it is. We have reached out to several of the administrators at these schools.
On Wednesday, a male student from a prominent high school was stabbed by his peer from another school on Malines Road in Kingston. SSP Nesbeth confirmed the incident, but notes that it was unrelated to the ongoing surveillance of the schools in question. He adds that there's an increase in police presence in the Halfway Tree area.
up to yesterday and trying to fine-tune some efforts. We have beefed up our presence in Harbourtree. As you know, everything culminates at the transportation center to mitigate this situation. So we started a process, and we are seeking to do much more than that with the parents, the deans of discipline, the administrators at the school, the students, so we can iron out the situation, because there seems to be an underlying issue that is emanated that they are trying to defend around it in quotation. So we have to make sure it doesn't unfold.
SSP Marlon Nesbeth, head of the St. Andrews Central Police Division. Meanwhile, Nationwide News has obtained a letter issued to parents of students at Calabar High School. The letter makes reference to an incident on Monday, April 15, between a student from Mona High and another from Calabar. The incident is believed to have triggered a feud among students from different high schools. Mahira Stewart has that report.
The incident involving the Mona and Calabar students reportedly began over a female student from Queen's School. But the dispute has since snowballed and now involves students from a number of different high schools, some of whom are being attacked without knowledge of the initial incident. The letter states that students from the Young Women's Christian Association, YWCA, Kingston College, Campion College, and St. George's College are involved in the ongoing conflict. According to the letter, the principals of the named institutions are in dialogue to discuss efforts to de-escalate the situation. It also says meetings have been arranged with the students involved, their parents, and law enforcement. The letter advises parents to discourage their students from carrying weapons and to avoid the Halfway Tree Transport Center or any area with a large gathering of students. The letter ends by promising parents a future update on the matter. Mahiri Stewart for Nationwide News.
A St. Catherine teacher has been charged with rape following an incident at a school in the parish in March. He has been identified as 42-year-old Stephen Cunningham of Main Road, Gregory Park. Reports are that on more than one occasion in March, Cunningham allegedly restrained a female student and sexually assaulted her. The charges were laid by detectives from the Center for Sexual Offences and Child Abuse Sosoka, following a report and subsequent question and answer session with Cunningham and his attorney. His court date is being finalized. Founder and Executive Director of the Jamaica Accountability Meter Portal JAMP, Jeanette Calder, says that the Prime Minister has seemingly reneged on his commitment to have several government-chaired committees of Parliament meet more frequently to do the business of the legislature. Prime Minister Andrew Holness made the commitment in 2020, shortly after the JLP won the general elections. But since then, the number of meetings of all House committees has drastically fallen. Siobhan Campbell reports.
Speaking on Nationwide at 5 Thursday evening, Ms. Calder says the Prime Minister stressed that it's the responsibility of all parliamentarians, especially those who are not part of the executive, to hold the government to account. She pointed out that this was one of the arguments put forward by Mr. Holness when he broke with the previously established convention of having various committees chaired by the opposition.
I'm very disappointed because the Prime Minister was so right about the need for the oversight, and we have been counting. Last year, September, at the end of September, we looked back 12 months and 81 reports based on an entire long list that the Parliament sent me of reports that have gone in the last 12 months. 81 reports. And when we look, just as your news team did, at how many meetings have been kept, which was next to zero, I'm saying today that the Prime Minister made a decision to reverse a best practice, which in the media and a number of citizens said is what he was doing, on the basis that he was committing to us that if the government members are in charge, this work would be done, and it is not being done. When a parliament doesn't function well, government can't function well, and the people don't get what is in their best interest done for them.
She says sittings of committees chaired by both sides of the House have declined even after the change in leadership.
From the get-go, I had a difficulty with the Prime Minister's decision. I understood the problem. I support him 100%. But there are 12 sessional committees, and at the time, I think 6 were chaired by the government and 6 were chaired by the opposition. But if you looked at the record back then, you would find there was no data to suggest that the government-chaired sessional committees were meeting more often than the one chaired by the opposition. So I'm saying I feel that the Prime Minister was spot on. He understands how important important these committees are. We have 146 public bodies. We the people own them. About 59 are self-financing. When they make money, they pump that profit back into the coffers for the public, you know. They have to do well. Some of them, we finance all of them. These reports come in. If nobody's looking at them, they don't do as well as they should.
Ms. Calder adds that the reports of the commissions of Parliament also languish when they are sent to the House.
The Speaker of the House, in many instances, chairs most of these before and now. And just an exercise for the citizens, we have 6 parliamentary commissions. Call the Parliament and ask when these reports, these very important commissions who report back to Parliament, when these reports come, ask the Clerk of the House, where are they assigned? And the answer is to nobody. The Children's Advocate, that's a commission. The Public Defender, Electoral Commission, just not assigned.
Siobhan Campbell for Nationwide News.
Meanwhile, South St. Catherine MP Fitz Jackson has defended the frequency of sitting of sessional committees chaired by opposition MPs, saying they struggle to get dates to meet. Mr. Jackson was speaking on Nationwide at 5 on Wednesday evening.
I can say they have met more frequently than all the others chaired by the government members.
Oh, so you're saying the government setting the bar for you?
No, they're not setting the bar.
Oh, you compare them with them.
Bar that nobody should measure themselves against.
Precisely.
But in respect of the PAC, though, Cliff, remember that the PAC meets to consider reports from the Auditor General report, right? Or any special report that comes from the Auditor General. In the case of the PAAs, which I also happen to sit on, right? And we do better than all the other government chair members. We struggle to get dates for us to meet. That's part of our reality.
Several parliamentarians and parliamentary staff have made the case of a lack of physical space for committee meetings. But Mr. Jackson says this argument is a distraction. Ms. Calder agreed.
This argument about new parliament in order to get space for committees to meet is a red herring. Why do I say that? During COVID, right, we meet outside of the parliament building. I once chaired that same economy and production committee. And by moving up a motion in the House, the committee can convene anywhere in Jamaica.
Jeanette Calder, is that convincing to you, based on what we're hearing from Mr.
Well,
Jackson?
I can tell you the Prime Minister, again, worth hearing everything. He was not accepting of that as a reason back in 2020 when the opposition mounted the argument about the chamber, only one room to meet in. The Prime Minister himself said, I'm going to reject that as a reason. So if the government members have taken over the chair and government members are now saying it's because we only have one chamber, I'm going to quote my Prime Minister and say that's not good enough a reason.
Jeanette Calder, founder and executive director of the Jamaica Accountability Meter Portal JAMP, and before her, Fitz Jackson, the MP for South St. Catherine. In news just in, Divisional Commander for the Kingston Central Police Division, Superintendent Beresford Williams, has confirmed that some of his officers are out sick with symptoms resembling those of the influenza A H1N1 virus, commonly called the swine flu. Superintendent Williams spoke with Nationwide News a short while ago.
Your members are sick. There's no indication yet that they are suffering from the same symptoms. We are constantly working with the Ministry of Health, the person's guiding us. They do regular visits and prescribe prescription. We're getting medication from them, and so we are going through that course of action to bring the situation under full control.
Superintendent Beresford Williams, Divisional Commander for the Kingston Central Police Division. Superintendent Williams did not reveal the total number of police personnel who are ill, but he says the number will not impair the station's efficiency. The Kingston Central Commander had previously confirmed to the media that 6 inmates at the lockup have been confirmed to have swine flu. In regional news, international news now, the EU's top diplomat, Josep Borrell, urged a group of 7 foreign ministers on Thursday to take quick, concrete steps to provide more air defense systems to Ukraine, warning that continued delays could tilt the war in Moscow's favor. The foreign policy chief warned that without more Patriot air defense missile systems to guard against incoming Russian strikes, the electricity system of Ukraine will be destroyed. He was speaking on the sidelines of a G7 foreign ministers meeting on the Italian resort island of Capri, where Russia's war in Ukraine and a surging tension tensions in the Middle East over Iran's unprecedented attack on Israel were topping the agenda. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken echoed Borrell's call, saying he hoped U.S. funding for Ukraine would soon come through Congress, but that other allies needed to step up. Italian Foreign Minister Antonio Tajani opened the first working session by calling for new sanctions against Iran for its weekend attack and concrete help for Ukraine to defend itself from Moscow's invasion. Russia's war in Ukraine and the Israel-Hamas war were taking center stage at the Capri meeting of the foreign ministers from Britain, Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, and the United States.